folks joining us. So welcome everyone, and welcome to this webinar. This is the webinar number 5 of the series. So we organize webinars on a bi-weekly basis on 3 topics. This is either tech leadership, which will be the case today, where we talk about different leadership issues, challenges, and see how people, organizations have overcome them. We have also webinars on technical topics. I think the last one was about handling exceptions, and we'll have soon the next one will be around AI use cases, and also webinars on product-related topics. So yeah, really excited to have you today. I'm Laurent Pai. I'm your host today. I'm the CEO of Packmind. And for those of you who don't know, Packmind is a platform, a solution that enables tech leads to identify and share the best coding practices with their team, so they can give the transfer knowledge and give them the 10x factor of the best performing team. And with me today to discuss the strategies for building and cultivating a software craft culture, I'm really excited to have Deborah Caldeira from Agregio. So yeah, Deborah, if you want to introduce yourself, and if you could also please add a fun fact by you.
Yes, thank you first of all for the invitation, and thank everyone for coming. So my name is Deborah Caldeira. I'm a front-end developer at Agregio Solutions, which is a subsidiary of EDF. And I am based in Paris. And a little fun fact about myself. I practice a sport that it's called powerlifting, which is actually quite fun because not many women, they practice this kind of sport. It's very close to weightlifting, and actually in a competitive level. So
Wow.
It's not very usual for a woman to do this kind of sport. And it's actually very close to my work as a developer because it really requires a lot of discipline and a lot of, like, everything has to be perfect, like the diet and programming. And you really have to be very disciplined, really. So when I think it's actually very close to what we try to do on a daily basis as a developer, we always try to improve. We always try to have processes. We always have deadlines. We have objectives. So it's really similar to that.
Wow, amazing! And that's the first time I hear this as a fun fact. So I'm sure everyone will remember you. Okay, amazing. So that would be great just to start with and kick in this presentation. If you could, present us Agregio. I don't know if everyone is familiar with this subsidiary of EDF, and explain us why you as a company had to transform and how you ended up adopting the craft culture.
Yes, so Agregio Solutions is actually a 100% owned subsidiary by EDF. So what we do, we are the leader in aggregation. So basically, we offer storage and energy management solutions on renewable energies. Our clients, they're mostly businesses. So we are a B2B organization. Right now, we are about 230 employees, and we have our context is that basically we went from a small startup. We scaled threefold in 2.5 years. We actually, our product right now of a merge between 2 EDF subsidiaries. So we really had like an important scaled up recently. Our tech department, we are right now 1/3 of the company. So we are a little bit over 70 people working in tech at Agregio. We went from 5 to 15 squads. So we had a significant growth in the past 2.5 years. We work with Agile. but we make strong use of DDD, so we are separated by domains. And our stack, the techs mostly, so Java, JavaScript, TypeScript, React, Python, Docker, AWS. But we have other little things here and there, but that's mostly our stack.
Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned you use DDD and your organization, the way the team operates and organized are also based on the domain, separated by domain. That reminds me what's the name of the law? The Conway Law, which says that your organization or your architecture will reflect your organization. And I think that's exactly what you mentioned here. Cool. So this is for Agregio. So one thing that really struck me when we prepared this webinar together is the moment, the trigger where you as a company, I mean, you joined right at this moment, but said, wow, we have to transform and to evolve, because yeah, it was not a craft culture from day one, right?
Exactly. Actually, so around 2022, a little bit before that, our business, it really operated in a very old-fashioned way. So we had clients that they still perform their actions by calling like our company directly or send emails with spreadsheets. So everything was very, very manual. Our industry, it wasn't really famous for having very automated systems. So what happened in 2022 is that suddenly all the big competitors, they started releasing their automated solutions. And that's where we had this disruptive challenge, because we suddenly were still operating in this very old-fashioned way. And our competitors, they're now offering automated solution for the same services that we are offering to our clients. So we felt the need that we had to step up, and we had to start offering the same or a better solution than our competitors that were offering at the moment.
Yeah, that was the wake-up call or the holy cow moment. Yeah. All right. So what was the bet or the next step when you suddenly realized, oh my God,
yes,
there is a 10x better solution out there?
Yes, so there was actually an attempt of trying to build a product that would just be very quickly shipped to the market, that would offer this alternative for an automated solution. The thing is, this product wasn't very well made. It was supposed to be delivered very fast. It was built by external people, so it was really something that we didn't really think through. And at that time, so we had a new CTO that joined the company. And he arrived and he had this decision that we were going to rebuild everything from scratch. So the little product that we tried to rush into the market, that would go straight to the trash. And we would just build everything from scratch, but well done this time. And we also had a change of tech stack on the front end. So we went from Angular to React. And this time what really changed was the mindset, because the CTO in that case, he decided that we really were going to go forward with a very product-oriented approach. So we really think features through before we start developing them. So we just don't ship blindly. So this time we're really going to have like a proper market research. So we see what are the features the clients they want, that the clients they need, and how we're going to develop that with the maximum quality, and how do we deliver that in a sustainable manner as well.
Is it fair to say that before it was more a project like approach and done by consultants or external consultant, and the goal was to have a more product oriented approach, as you said, and done internally? Is that the move?
Yes, so before there wasn't really a tech department internally. So this new CTO, what he did as well was to say, okay, so let's not only rebuild this project from scratch, I'm going to rebuilding an entire tech department from scratch. And not only with the human resources, so I'm not only going to hire people, but I'm also going to create a culture from scratch.
Mm-hmm. So what's interesting here is that usually I've got some gray hair and a few experiences in this type of project, and usually rebuild everything is a kind of red flag most of the time. I've seen so many projects or attempt to redesign new product, and ultimately it failed. So I'm curious, what was it in your context? What was so specific that you're still here, and it seems like it has been a success? Why was that possible in that context?
Yes. So first of all, it was still a small project, so it wasn't in a very advanced phase yet. What we had delivered at that moment was still a little bit of a MVP. So we didn't have a lot of features. It didn't have. It wasn't the legacy wasn't big enough to make rebuilding like a huge challenge in that sense. So that was already one advantage. And also, we work in a very specific industry, which is the energy industry, where we have very special contracts. So our agreements we have with the clients, they are quite different than we have in other industries. And in our case, so it gives us more time and flexibility for delivering certain things. So we're a bit lucky there as well. I understand that sometimes some industries, they don't have the same level of flexibility, but luckily we had. So we were like, we had the time. We don't have a huge legacy yet. And on top of that, we thought, how do we make sure that we are delivering correctly this time? So to us, the customer support was really the core of it. So from the beginning, from the very beginning of the development, we also had in our minds like very clearly that we need to make sure we are delivering what the client wanted, what the client needed. So to have this iterative approach with the client, so really like this great customer support, it really helped us to succeed on delivering something that even though at the beginning it didn't have the same features as the legacy one, because it took some time for us to ship the complete package that would fully replace the old product. But we made sure that the client was understanding during the process, that they reassured that we are going to deliver what they needed and it was going to be better. So to have this close relationship with the clients, it was very important as well.
Yeah, so just to summarize, it only works if you, let's say the project is not too advanced, right? It's not a 10 years legacy with tons of features. And you have a great customer success team that can buy you some time. I think these were, seems like they were the two ingredients. All right, amazing. And so what about the levers now? Tell us a bit more about how you and the organization have succeeded in that transition.
Yeah, what was interesting is that when we had all this new tech team arriving, we had the new CTO, the new culture, we could take some step back and analyze what went wrong, why was the other product a failure, and what could we learn from it. So that was really key for when rebuilding something from scratch. So really make sure you're not making the same mistakes. We had another thing, which was the change in leadership. So again, we had a new CTO, we had entire new teams. And in the beginning, it's a bit of a trial and error because people, they have very different personalities. And overall, at the beginning, we had a composition that a lot of people, they're really like risk averse. And there was a slow shift into having more balanced teams. So it went from people who are more risk averse to people who are more, let's go and get it profiles. So people who are really more, they take actions without thinking too much about delivering everything 100% perfect all the time. So it's important to have both profiles in a tech team to make sure that we don't get blocked, and also that you're not too reckless. You see, we need a balance. So that was important as well for us.
Was not the Facebook approach. Let's break things.
Yeah, in our case, like we need a balance. We need the people that are going to be like, okay, careful, let's analyze the risks first, and then we have people that they're really okay. They're going to push the others to deliver. So to achieve this balance, it took us some time as well. And we also wanted to establish a craft culture and apply good practices from day one. And that was actually really important because I really think it's a lot harder to change the mindset of people once they've been working a certain way for a long time. So for us, one of the keys for success was really that from day one, we had this culture that came from the top. So basically from the CTOs, they came from the tech culture of the company for us to really adopt good practices really from day one. And I like to say that we have people who are drivers and people who are enablers. And the CTO, engineering managers, this kind of role, they are a good example of enablers because they're really there cheering and supporting and giving us incentives to actually pursue these practices and to make sure we have a welcoming environment to bring new ideas and to actually apply them.
Yeah, one thing that always struck me is how the leadership team, so the CTO in your case, how their mindset and behaviors impact the culture of the organization. Would you say it's a must-have, or could we still engage in such a transformation and adopt craft culture? I would say, despite the leadership team.
I think yes, you can, but it's obviously a lot harder. I think ultimately, at some point, even if you don't have the support of the CTOs or the managers, you're gonna have to get it at some point. Because we have two restraints, I think. The first one is financial. There are certain things we need a budget to perform them. And the second thing is the time, because we need time to do things properly. We need time to perform certain activities. And you need people who are above you to actually support that, to understand why you need this extra time or why do you need this extra financing. So if you really don't have that, I think it's going to be like really a lot more complicated. So I'll say that if you have already a CTO that is on board with the idea, excellent. So just make sure if you're one person that you call yourself a driver, you have great ideas, you want to make it happen, just make sure you are aligned with the CTO so you get this major supports to actually apply and go forward with your ideas. But if you don't, I would say I think it could be interesting for you to take some time and try to convince the people who are eventually the enablers to get on board with you. I think that would be like super important.
And I would add to what you say when you mention we need time to do things properly. I'd say, and if we look at a longer term period, it's not. It doesn't take more time. It's more, in fact, efficient. It's just that you have to invest at some point in order to get the dividends of that, and the dividends will pay out in a period of 6 months, a year, 2 years. Exactly. And that's why we need the buy-in.
Exactly. And sometimes people, they want the results, they want things to be delivered right now. They want an immediate return on the investment. And there are still many companies that they still operate like that. So I think it's really important to, like you said, take this step back and think, okay, what's going to be our return on investment in the long run? This is an exercise that actually a lot of people, they're not doing on a daily basis. So, so yeah.
It has to be very deliberate. Let's say you can prioritize short term. You just have to be aware about the trade-off and what it means in terms of debt and tech debt in this case, and longer term. So yeah, you are fine with the level of debt. But what we see way too often is you always prioritize short term for a long period of time, and you end up with such a debt that it's too late. Kind of you are stuck. So. Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. And the other point that I found really interesting, reasoning with. So we had a webinar with IAD, so one of the IAD, one of the French unicorn, one of the scale up, and Georges mentioned the learning culture as you did, and postmortem was a big part of that, right? So learning from past failures like you. So seems to be something really, really important there. If you wanna progress, you have to look at the failures, learn from them. So learning is compound. Otherwise, it's just a waste. All right. So yeah, tell us about the journey itself.
Yeah. So again, we were a bit lucky because we had some time to build our MVP. So it took us 1 year to deliver our MVP. And I know that's not the standard. Most of the time, we are going to have to deliver MVPs in a much shorter time than that. Sometimes even if you get 6 months, you're lucky. So for us, I admit it was really like a special situation where we, again, because of we already had the legacy product that wasn't great, but it still worked. We have a special industry that allows us to have more flexibility. So in our particular case, we had more time. And on the other hand, we really took, because we had, you say, like 1 year to do it, we really took our time to do things properly. So for us, in the end of the day, I think now when I look back, it's actually paying off. So now we see that was an investment, and now you're finally collecting the return from it. And so, like it's written, so we were intentional about knowledge management. So from day one, we knew exactly what we were doing. We learned from the previous mistakes. We created some rules as well. So, for example, we had a big problem with the team turnover. So we are already thinking forward. Basically, did a lot of risk prediction. So we were thinking, if you have a huge turnover, if our team members they get replaced, how do you do to make sure that we don't lose the knowledge? So we created some rules. So, for example, as soon as we know a team member is leaving, so in the next sprint, 1 or 2 next sprints, this person is now forbidden to work alone. So everything this person does is going to be in pair programming to make sure that we don't have any knowledge that gets lost during this transition period. We made the choice as well of documenting absolutely everything. So we are very diligent about it, actually. So in our case, we used Confluence and Notion, but not only. It was when we started using Packmind as well. Not only for documenting decisions, but also for documenting good practices. So sometimes, if you code things in a certain way, Packmind helped us because we could then, on the platform, to document why exactly we are code things that certain way. Why at some point we took the decision that this is a good practice or a bad practice. So documenting overall was really key. Because it really helped as well when you had the onboarding of new members. Because when they come, it's important that they have easy access to the history to understand why do things that certain way, and why were these decisions taken at that specific moment.
Yeah, you've been so deliberate about explicit, I would say, knowledge management, so formalize things. I think that's what really stood out when we prepared. And in your context, that really made sense because you had this turnover, as you said, and not only turnover, but yeah, also adding new people, the reversibility from the, let's say, consulting team to new tech department. So yeah, that's why it was so important.
Yes. So I think, so in our case, we had a series of challenges. The first one is that we had a lot of new people because as we were building a tech department from scratch, we didn't have a situation where people are already comfortable with each other, that you have like this huge, great integration among teams and people already. Like we were starting from scratch. So everybody's new, people, they come from different backgrounds, they come from different companies, different cultures. They have different levels of seniority. You have juniors, you have seniors, and everybody's still like a rough diamond. So we had to really think, okay, what's the strategies we're going to take to polish these people into our culture? And we also had delivering fast versus better. So is what we were saying before. Sometimes we have this huge pressure, which was why the other project, they failed as well. They had to deliver an MVP extremely fast. And in the end, what happened is that the quality is not just that it wasn't great, but it was really bad to the point we had to rebuild from scratch, So this time when we started again, we had it very clear that this time we have to go a little bit slower, but we really need to make sure that we are delivering better. So if you need to take some extra time to do it, then that's the price to pay. We'll pay for that because we know for sure it's going to pay off in the future. And another challenge we had, it was the fear of failure. Well, we already came from a context where there was a failing project. So normally people are like, okay, we can't do this twice. This time we really don't have room for failure, like we are hired precisely to succeed. So there was a bit of a pressure there. And on top of that, you also have some people that they have a specific personality where they are risk averse. So that actually makes them to work very very slowly as well, in the sense that it takes them a very long time to take decisions and to deliver anything, because they really want everything to be perfect. So the general fear of failure, either because of the previous experiences or because of people's individual personality. So that was a roadblock for us as well at some point. And we also have another personality type, which is people who are resistant to change. And I think in many things, in many companies, you can encounter that. And actually it's quite surprising, because in the case of Agregio, we had a lot of people who are very young, who are very resistant to change. And that's something that there is this general idea that younger people, they're more flexible, they're more open-minded. And it's not actually the case we encountered at Agregio. We had a lot of very young people that were very, very resistant. So they had a specific way of working, a specific way of operating that they learned, I don't know, in school or in their previous experiences. And when you propose something new, for example, a new craft practice or a new process, it takes them a lot of time to accept that and to integrate into the process. Because for them, they have this huge resistance. They're not very flexible, actually. So that was another big challenge we had.
Yeah, without doing any generalization, I know you mentioned when we were preparing this webinar, Deborah, that there may be something cultural here, and I know you want to be really respectful of the audience, but I think that was an interesting comment, because you come from a different country, you have different background. I do too now live in the US for a few years, and I see these different cultures and how we approach failures or how we consider failure. So yeah, there may be something also cultural based on the let's say the country of the where the people come from, and also maybe on the industry you operate in, which is energy, and yeah, there is the approach to risk is probably not the same.
Yes, well, I come from a very international background, and I love working with French people. I'm going to let this clear. However, I did notice that there is something indeed about the French culture that I feel it's changing, especially in startup environments. There is progress, but generally speaking, really, yeah, French people, they tend to be very risk averse, I think, in my opinion. It's really difficult for French people to expose what's not working in public, or to expose saying things like, oh, I failed, so I did something wrong, or what you have done is not great. So I feel that for French people to do this is really, really hard. So yeah, that's interesting to have now the initial feedbacks that we had when we started trying to apply some craft practices at Agregio. So these are all actually quotes that I heard not once, but actually multiple times by different people. So it was really like very recurrent. The first one was, this is a waste of time. I would rather be coding. Because there's a lot of people that they think that if they're not coding, they're not actually working. So everything else that's not strictly coding, for them, they don't really understand what's that exercise for. Like for them, they don't really see the long-term benefit of it. You see, like they don't see the return on investment. For them, they're just really wasting their time being in that room in that specific moment. And another one was, I'm not comfortable with having my own code being identified as bad. So again, it goes with the fear that I feel with French people sometimes of being publicly exposed to their colleagues. So they don't want to be criticized in public. And this is something that actually we respect. So we try to accommodate our practices and accommodate our activities to make sure that people that end up being comfortable with it, and that this doesn't become a violent experiment with people where we're just there pointing fingers at each other and saying, okay, this is bad and this is your fault. No, it's not about this at all. So there was a big work to do there as well.
Yeah, the intent is not blaming in this case. It's
Exactly.
really about learning and growing, right?
Exactly. And then we have the classic, I don't like meetings. We don't need more meetings. It's a classic because this one, I think I still hear almost every day from different people. So, however, again, it's a work on trying to make them understand that this is an investment. You see, you're not wasting your time. You're investing your time into an activity that's actually going to pay off in the future. And the other one is, I don't have anything to share. And what I like to answer to that one is that, well, it's not possible that I've been working and producing and delivering very good work, very good things for the past, 3 weeks, the past sprint, for example. And I just don't believe it that you don't have anything to share. Like, just that you don't want to share is a different story, but I believe everybody has anything to share. You just need to find the correct way where you are going to feel comfortable sharing what you have done, which is a different story. And then you also have I'm not comfortable saying negative things about the code of my tech lead or people who are more senior than me. That comes very often from juniors, where they are not comfortable at all pointing potential negative things of people who are more senior than they are. So yeah, they are either because they're their managers or because they don't want to feel like they're trying to teach a lesson to somebody who's technically more senior, or because they don't believe in their skills enough to say that maybe in that specific topic they know more than people who are more senior than they are. So it's a point of blockage as well sometimes for juniors to speak out and to bring something to the table.
Yeah. You need some seniority, and that remind me a story when I was running my second startup, Hip Test. The team at some point came to me and said, Laurent, I have to tell you something. We're going to remove you the access to Git. So I said, okay, fine. I know this is for the best interest of the code and the company, so let's do that. So yeah, we have to be also as leader open to it. All right. So what was your secret sauce?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned before, to lead by example is extremely important. Is what I was saying about the drivers and the enablers. If you are one of the people who are the enabler, so if you are a manager, if you are a CTO, if you are a tech lead, just make sure that you are giving the right example by applying these practices yourself in your company, whatever they are, whatever is the craft activities you have in your company, just make sure you give the example. Because in my experience, it's really hard for you to push things forward when you have somebody who's in the hierarchy is above you, and this person is not pushing and is not giving the example as well, because people, they tend to follow the ones who are their superiors, you see. So if you're not the first one to go out there and to take the first step to show others, like, look, I do it, you should do it too, it's going to be very complicated. The other thing is the psychological safety. Like I was saying, people that have a lot of blockage, they don't want to do this introspective work of taking a step back and thinking what's not working right now in our organization, in our team. What can we do to improve things, or to identify the points of blockage, and to maybe rethink our processes, the way we work to deliver better. Not everybody's comfortable doing that, because that is going to forcefully implies that you're going to have to say negative things about either your processes that you or somebody else created, or sometimes even about people themselves, because sometimes it's fair to say that the problem can be human. Sometimes the problem is not always on the code, on the technology, or the processes. Sometimes it's human. And it's really difficult for people to feel comfortable enough to do this kind of exercise. So psychological safety is extremely important. And again, you have to work with your enablers in your company to make sure that you have that.
I just shared a link about embracing generative culture, which is a blog post we released a few days ago. And that's exactly about it. And this is, by the way, one of the capability of the DORA framework. And for those of you who don't know, I recommend that you look at DORA, DORA.dev. And that really explains all the capabilities you have to invest in order to improve delivery performance, or accelerate the frequent releases, and improve also quality. Velocity and quality goes together. And yeah, the culture itself and psychological safety is part of that generative culture. That's one of the foundation that you need in order to progress.
Definitely.
That really resonate with that.
Yeah. For us, it was also very important to identify the drivers for each practices that we apply in our company. So sometimes, to have this one person that's really into it, that really wants to try to make things happen, that's fine. But in my experience, you can't work alone. You really need to be a team. You really need to find other people who's going to be on board with you and is going to try to push these practices with you. So in our case, what we try to identify is a different driver for each team, to make sure that you have at least one person who's going to be the one pushing these things forward in each individual team. On top of that, we need, of course, the enablers at the top is still supporting us in this, but the drivers are just extremely important, because they are the ones that on a daily basis, they are making sure that everything's happening, you see. So they're extremely, extremely important. We also adopted Packmind, actually, and we have something called technical retrospectives, which is every 3 weeks. So our sprints, they are of 3 weeks. We have 1 hour where we take some step back and we do a technical retrospective really on what you have done technically during the sprint. And this is where Packmind comes into play, because that's where we use it for documenting and conducting these retrospectives. That's not the only thing we adopted. So we also do REX, which is return on experience presentations. We do BBLs, open forums, which is basically one day that we have every 3 months. And we have a lot of little conferences. So it's a conference day. And we do a lot of pair programming. We are doing now mob programming as well. Overall, we just try with, you see, many different practices, but the idea is to build an environment that encourages continuous learning and continuous improvement. That's the idea. I think the key here is that we have a lot of different craft practices that we apply in our daily basis at Agregio, but not everybody gets involved in all of them. The idea is just that you have this general culture, and people, each one of them, they're going to find at least one activity that fits them. Because in my experience, I also realized that you can't force people to participate in everything. Some people, they're going to be extremely shy. For example, conferences. Some people, they're going to be extremely shy to talk in public or to bring a topic and to lead a conversation with other people. This is extremely hard. I understand not everybody wants to present anything in public to others. So you can't force everybody to participate in this kind of exercise. So you need to make sure that you have a craft activity for each type of individual in your company as well. Eventually, sometimes they get some confidence. So maybe after a year or two, they feel more encouraged because they see their colleagues doing it. They see it's not a big deal to, I don't know, speak in public or to have to hold a little conference. So eventually they are going to volunteer and they will do it as well. But you need to give people their time, just create the welcoming and the enabling environment. And eventually people are going to join in, but give them their time and just make sure that you have enough practices, that you're doing things correctly from day one. You're offering the right environment for them. and eventually they are going to join. So to us, I think that was the biggest key.
Yeah, that again, really interesting, because that resonates 100% with what Georges said during the last webinar, EID. Same, let's say, forums for knowledge sharing, for continuous learning, REDS, BBL. They had also this open forum. They had a specific name, but that was exactly it. And also, yeah, using Packmind on a daily basis to share and adopt the good practices. So, outcome.
Yes. So now when I look back, so comparing to 2 years ago, where we had none of this, basically, now that I'm thinking, fast forward 2024, we have a lot of things going on. So we have, all this open forum. We really work under the DDD, the domain-driven design, for the ones that don't know. TDD, test-driven development. Practice reviews, pair programming, mob programming. We do a lot of conferences, and we really encourage people participate in tech conferences, and not only going to them, but also coming back and sharing with others, what did you learn during these 2-3 days in this specific conference. So that's an exercise that we start doing now that we didn't do before as well, which I think is quite interesting. So for example, if you go to the Vox, so for the ones that don't know, the Vox, it's a huge tech conference we have in France. The idea is that once you come back, you prepare maybe some little talk, or you select one interesting talk or subject that you heard about during the Vox, and you can bring that to the open forum, for example. So you bring other people with you, so to share what did you learn, or to expand on that topic, so you get others to participate in a more deep conversation about that specific subject. But the idea is to really bring back the knowledge that you are getting externally in a conference or in a certification or anything externally that you attend. Again, knowledge sharing should be at the core. This is when we create a new craft practice, what we think the first thing is that how is it going to contribute to the knowledge sharing? See, so that's the main objective. Same for pair programming, mob programming, to do that as much as possible to make sure that we don't concentrate the knowledge into one single person. So that was extremely important as well for us. So yes, so my team specifically, very soon we're going to lose what was the 92% of the original members. So we are going to approach the 100% turnover in less than 2 years. And,
when you said high turnover, that's high.
Yeah,
I confirm.
And I think it can happen to many companies for different reasons. In our case, it was organic because we had a mix of internal and external consultants. And normally, every company, we start internalizing the human resources. So of course, eventually we started hiring. So the original team that are mostly consultants, they unfortunately had to go. And we also have a natural transition sometimes because in our case, so we merged, so we became one. We are 2 EDF subsidiaries, we became one. And when you have a big organizational change like that, and when the company is growing fast, it's normal that some people, they leave as well. So I say 92% because technically I'm the only one left. So otherwise it would have been 100% really.
Your team.
Yeah. But we are lucky in the sense that from the beginning, we knew that we are going to have a near 100% turnover in a very short period of time. So also because we knew that, this is why from day one, we took this matter very seriously of documenting everything, make sure we have a good transition when team members they leave and the others they arrive. So the onboarding process was really important as well. And exactly. So now our onboarding is 2 times faster than it used to be. So we have these practices. So for example, when I explained before, when somebody leaves, so we make sure that we do a lot of pair programming, but not only. Now we are really going to try to implement that on a daily basis, even if we know no one is leaving. We try to do as much pair programming and mob programming as possible, really, to make sure that you don't have the concentration of knowledge on a single person, because this makes the team very fragile as well. And I just remember a quote that one of my previous tech lead, he told us one day. It was somebody that he was very appreciated, and somebody that most people, they would think that he's irreplaceable. And one day he came to me and he said, the day that you all feel that you don't need me is the day that I feel that I did my job right.
Yeah.
Because he said he was actually there to make sure he would transfer his expertise as much as possible, so we are not overly dependent on him. And we're all like, oh my gosh, no, you can't leave, like, we really need you. He's like, and one day when he was about to leave, he said, no, you don't need me. And I'm actually really, really happy, because it means I did my job well. So that was, I always remember that, actually, because I realized that especially a good lead and a good, more senior, I would say, developer is the one that they know how to transfer the knowledge, who know how to be generous to the point that really want to share everything you know, and as much as you can, to make sure that your team, they can grow overall. But also that, I don't know, it's really silly, but if you go on holidays, or if you have an accident, or if you just quit the company, you're not going to put the project on a pause because people are going to have to catch up to your expertise, So it's something that I always think about, that we can't create this kind of dependency. So the knowledge sharing, like from day one, I've always considered to be extremely important on any project, really. Yes, people are different, and we should embrace these differences, and something that we really do at Agregio. Like I was saying, we have people with really different personalities, very different backgrounds, very different previous experiences. So we need to make sure the environment is really welcoming, and they have to feel comfortable at work. And when it comes to craft, we need to make sure that there will be at least one practice where they're going to be feeling comfortable to get involved into. Like I said, sometimes if it's somebody who's not really comfortable, and we have this kind of profile, actually, they're not comfortable speaking in public at all. So they will probably, I hope one day, but probably they'll never do any kind of open forums or return and presentations. But they get involved quite a lot in pair programming, mob programming. So they do other things that they also contribute to the general craft culture of the company. So we really need to embrace that, to not try to force people to participate in every single activity, because this is not going to work. It's only going to create frustration and stress. So the idea is just to make sure that everybody shares the same culture, even though they perform it in different ways.
Yeah, I think that's also very powerful what you said about the role of a leader. One of the main role of a leader, which is to upskill and grow the team. So at some point he can leave, and everyone I know in the US will ask a senior leader to, what's your succession plan after 1 month of work? I got this question. No, what's your succession plan? Wow, I just arrived. But I think you're right. That's a key part of the job. So just to wrap up on this outcome, I know you also spent some time, and your team is exploring AI. Your team is exploring also Packmind AI. If you can share, some feedback. If you can give some feedback on this.
Yes. So the AI nowadays, so we use, I specifically use Packmind AI for selecting practices to bring to our technical retrospectives. And to me, and your experience as a graduate, generally speaking, is that the AI is still in a stage where it's not replacing a human, for sure. So I think what's really important is to work with AI as if you are curating pieces of art in a museum. This is how I see it. So, for example, Packmind, every morning they're going to give me some suggestions. That really actually saves my time. It's the idea of a curator. So it brings everything already ready for me in a silver tray. However, you still need the human that's going to be senior enough, let's say, or knowledgeable enough to be able to select the right things that they matter to you at that moment, that's going to be relevant for you at that moment, from this huge silver tray of items that the AI is going to deliver to you. So to me nowadays, at Agregio, the use that we mostly have of AI, generally speaking, not only Packmind, is that we really treat the AI as this excellent curator, that they're going to bring a lot of things ready for you that otherwise would have taken you hours, like really endless hours, to collect them yourself. So in terms of time savings, really like excellent. However, you still need somebody who has a minimal level of knowledge behind the screen to be able to select the final choices like very carefully.
Yeah, critical thinking and expertise is still extremely important here. I just also would want to clarify, I think this is a good segue to the last slide. What we mean here by AI is, at least for Packmind, is with the purpose of upskilling teams. So bringing them, talking about coding practices. What have you done the last day or the last week? Are there any good patterns or bad patterns that we should avoid? Is there any good patterns that would be worth sharing with the rest of the team? So still in the spirit of growing the team and knowledge sharing, which is a very different purpose, elevating the team, very different purpose and complementary to GitHub Copilot, which is to create code faster. So for those of you who don't know Packmind, that's just in 1 minute. It's a platform, so as we just said, powered by AI that enable tech leads to identify and share the best coding practices. And it's still human, obviously driven. So as I said, again, what are the part of the code that are worth discussing and sharing with the team that will help to elevate the team and give them the 10x performance ratio that we usually talk about between great developers and junior developers. I think the mission, as we said, is how do we transfer this 10x factor? And it works in a 3-steps process. So first, either it's the AI or the tech lead identifying the coding practices while coding in the flow. So it can be from when you do code reviews or when you just do a refactoring, you can save the before and after and show what is the right way in your context of doing things. Then there is this technical retrospective, so the practice that we call the practice review, discussing as a team. So a synchronous meeting, discussing as a team what are the practices that we should adopt. If you do architecture decision record, that's exactly the same thing and same spirit, but to all the coding practices. And then what's interesting, and that's also something where AI is really great at, is deploying once you have validated a practice. So in this context, for example, we should use mock. In this context, we should use stub when it comes to a test, or this is the way we should do BDD. And once you have, let's say, agreed and aligned on this, all these standards and decisions are deployed automatically in your IDE, can help to drive your Copilot or in the code review process. So whenever, let's say, you tend to take the wrong road, then Packmind will tell you, hey, we have a decision. We made a decision in the team that is, we should do this in this case, and you go the other direction, which is maybe fine, but yeah, the human is still the driver, to your point, Deborah, but at least you have this feedback. And that's the last one about the learning culture. I think it's important to keep this learning pyramid in mind, and it's all about the retention rate, right? There is the passive learning methods, the active learning ones, and while reading is super important, looking at YouTube or online courses is also really important and interesting. Retention rate is really low. Where we really learn and retain a lot is when we do active learning, and that's group discussion, that's practice by doing, and that's teaching to others. And when I look back at everything you mentioned, Deborah, about the open forum, the BBL, so the use of also Packmind, it's all about active learning. When I do a practice review, I have this collaborative technical retrospective with the team. It's a group discussion where we align on the coding practices. When I got the feedback in the ID that, hey, this is the practice, the technical decision we made in the team, I got the feedback from Packmind. That's practice by doing. I learn as I do. I get feedback, immediate feedback as I do. When I teach others, or when I present my coding, my technical decision or coding practice to others, I'm teaching them, right? And we are always both teachers and students. Then I return even more. So practice by doing, active learning is definitely the key here. And that's, I think, really resonate. What you shared, Deborah, is backed by science. I guess that was my final word. All right, amazing. Thank you very much, Deborah, for sharing this. I think we have a few minutes left for Q&A. I don't know if there is any question there. And if not, I'm just gonna start a poll. I don't know if I can do this. No, seems like I can't. So yeah, we'll send you an email afterward just to ask you for feedback, because getting feedback and improve continuously is definitely important. So let's do what we preach. And if there is no question for Deborah, well, it's just time for us, Deborah, to say thank you very much, everyone, for attending this this session. It was recorded, so you will receive the link afterward, and yeah, feel free to share it with your team and get back to Deborah or get back to me with any question you might have. Otherwise, yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Deborah, for the great presentation. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye. You too.